It is 22:11 in the morning, so I'm a little behind on the time that Grandma would have normally started the sauce, but I ain't getting up at 6 o'clock on a Sunday just to make sauce. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start making the sauce for you. So, here's what I have so far. Of course, now I can't figure out how to... No, stop that. Nope. How do I... Really? I can't? Alright, we're going to have to stop and edit. Okay, so we have some company today. So normally I would use 2 cans of tomato puree, but today I'm going to use 3. And for every can of tomato puree, we also use a can of tomato paste. And we prefer the contadina with the Italian herbs already in the paste because that's less work I have to figure out later. So, first we're going to start, and we're going to do the meat. So we've got our big macaroni pot. Yes, this is Grandma Angelina's original sauce pot, and no, I'm never giving it up. So for meat, we're going to do some beef, which is, I just have these little eye-round steaks. That's basically what I throw in. She used to call the butcher and say, I need a so-and-so, maybe 2-pound piece of beef, and he would just cut her a piece of beef, and I have no idea what kind it was, so this is what I go with. And then I'm going to use for pork some boneless country-style pork ribs. They tend to break down a little bit better than the regular pork chops. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to turn the pot on, and it always helps to make sure that you're turning the right one on. Maybe about medium high. And we're going to take some vegetable oil and just put a little bit in the bottom because we got to sear the meat. We're not cooking it all the way through. We just want to sear it. So we're going to get that a little bit hot, and then we'll put the meat in. We've got it decently hot. So what I'm going to do is, I prefer to do a little seasoning. So a little salt. And, oh, this ought to be good. I'm going to put a little pepper on this, but I can't do it with one hand, so yeah. There's going to be pepper on there. That's what we're going to go with. And now there's pepper on there too. So we take the steaks and we put them seasoned side down. And that will be the same with the pork. Yeah, we're going to turn off for the pepper again. And we go down with the pork too. We don't want to cook them through. We just want to get a good sear on them. And while that side is down, we season this side. Let's go. And again, a little pepper. Sometimes when you have too much meat, you gotta do it in batches, and that's okay. And don't forget the all important, gotta have your coffee. Because if you don't have coffee, you don't know what the hell you're doing. And then God help you if the meatballs come out wrong. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead, and we're gonna put this meat back in. And now we're going to add our sauce ingredients. The first thing we do is we add our puree. And be careful, sometimes the puree bubbles back up. That's just because the oil is hot and you're adding puree, and then it automatically bubbles, and if you're not careful, you're going to get hit. Correct. Now, each one of these cans, for each can of puree you put in, you want to fill it up with water and dump a can of water in there. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so now I've got my water. So for each can of puree, we fill it up and we put in a can of water. And then we take a wooden spoon, because you know you can't use any other kind of spoon for this. And we just stir a little bit, and now we have to add our tomato paste. However, we don't just throw it into the pot. What we do, oh, and you know, you use the empty can as a spoon holder. So, we're going to take the tomato paste, we're going to take it out of here, put it into the can, and then for each can of tomato paste, we fill up the tomato paste can, add some water, and then we swish it around to kind of break it down a little bit so it's not just this big clumpy stuff going into the pot. So I'm going to do that now. So we've got our tomato paste mixed with some water into the sauce. That'll thicken it up. Okay, now, key component to Grandma's sauce. And yes, I'm calling it sauce, but you know as well as I do that Grandma called it gravy. But because I know we're not the only ones that are going to watch this, it's called sauce for the rest of the world. Grandma always put Parmesan cheese. And no, I have no idea how much, but I just kind of go with 2 really good, healthy handfuls. And then a little extra. Yeah, I like it that much. But this is what always gives the sauce that extra little bit of flavor. Now for me, Grandma used to put in a bay leaf. Unfortunately, I have a horrible, horrible habit of forgetting there's a bay leaf in there and not taking it out and serving it to someone, so I don't put the bay leaf in. But if you want to, go ahead and put a bay leaf in, and then just remember to take it out before you serve. What I do add is a little bit of parsley. As it comes out, there we go. A little bit of parsley. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of sauce in this pot. And once we put the meatballs in, that's going to be a problem. But we'll figure that out later. Because you need the extra sauce, because when you have all of the meat's going to absorb some of the sauce, and then you need it for the pasta. And yes, I can totally hear that my accent is coming out as I'm doing this. So those of you who know I don't live on the island anymore are probably laughing. But it's just going to get worse, so stick with me. This is going to be fun. The other thing we're going to add to this sauce is some garlic. Now what Grandma used to do is Grandma used to take some garlic and she used to kind of saute it on the bottom of the pan before she would put the meat in. I've always had a tendency of burning the garlic. And years later, Grandma would stop doing the garlic because she says it would repeat on her. But I love the garlic, so I just grab a jar of minced garlic. Make my life a little easier. I throw it in after. I like garlic, so I throw in quite a bit. But you can use as much or as little as you like. And now what we do is we take our cover and you put the cover on, not quite on all the way, just kind of let it breathe, and you're going to let that come to a boil, and then once it comes to a boil, you're going to turn it down to a simmer, and you're going to cook that for a couple hours. I would say, I mean, right now it's 11 o'clock, I'm planning on eating at 2. So this will cook from now until 2 o'clock when we're ready to eat, so that's 3 hours. I've been known to cook it for 5 hours if I can, but this is fine. So I'm going to end here, and then when it's time to make the meatballs, I will do this again. I'm hoping you're enjoying this, because I'm actually having fun. Okay, are we rolling?
We're rolling.
We're back.
We're back.
So now we've got our sauce is simmering. We've turned it down to simmer, and it's just going, and the beef and the pork are in there.
Okay.
So we've got that going. Now to make our meatballs, I've got about 2 pounds of chopped meat. Now, this is just beef. Grandma would use beef and pork.
Right.
Now, there's a misconception. My mother thought Grandma used veal beef and pork. Grandma did not use veal, just beef and pork.
Beef and pork.
But you can use whatever you want. So this
and it was always 1.5 pounds of chopped meat, beef and pork.
Oh.
That's how I used to go get it.
Oh, see?
Okay.
See? We're learning. So we've got our chopped meat. So this is 2 pounds of chopped meat. Now you want 2 eggs per pound. So we've got 4 eggs here. Our cheese, because, you know, you can't cook anything without cheese. A little extra parsley.
Parmesan cheese?
Well,
Locatelli.
this is Locatelli, the Pecorino Romano.
All right, that tastes flavorful.
Okay, that's what we always use. Now,
Okay.
remember, Grandma used to have the block, and
Yeah,
this is the grated stuff, makes life much easier.
Okay.
We've got our breadcrumbs, which Grandma always used Progresso.
She used to use the seasoned breadcrumbs.
That's the Italian style.
Okay.
See?
Okay.
See?
Seasoned. They had to say seasoned.
Had to say seasoned.
Okay.
So now we've got the Italian style seasoning. I add a little extra parsley. And we've got our oil for frying.
What kind of oil? Olive oil?
Vegetable oil.
Okay.
Grandma always used vegetable oil.
Okay.
So I've got my half cup measuring cup out because we will be adding some of the sauce to the meatballs.
Okay.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our oil into the pan and get that going so that we can fry the meatballs. So this way, by the time we actually are
How much
finished, you put enough in so that at least half the meatball is covered.
Okay.
See, and this is why I can't write a recipe, because it's all kind of eyeballing. I put that on like medium high for now, and then
Okay.
we usually turn it down between the two batches of meatballs.
Okay, hold on.
The topic's not sweet.
Oh, and
Come back at the commercial.
all right, so now we're going to put everything together. So we have.
What did you do with the oven there?
I put it on about medium high. Well, I have an electric oven, so I'm putting it on 6. Usually after the first round of meatballs, we have to turn it down because the oil gets too hot.
Okay.
So we've got our 2 pounds of chopped meat.
Okay.
Now here's how I layer it. First thing I throw in is a half a cup.
Now, when you made the sauce, what did you do with the sauce? How did you do that?
I already videoed that. You're a little behind.
Oh, excuse me.
So I've got about a
You can't pay me enough for this.
half a cup of
Mommy,
sauce. Yes,
Mommy,
dear.
I'm gonna ride my big wheel.
You want to ride your big wheel? All right, you gotta wait. So we put about a half a cup of sauce in there.
But wait, kid, you're bottoming.
Now we don't want to put the eggs right on top of the hot sauce because then we get scrambled eggs in the meatballs, which we
Okay.
don't want. So next we'll put in our breadcrumbs. Again, eyeball, sorry. We're going to start with about that much.
That's it? Okay.
All right.
Now, how much came out of there?
Yeah, I don't know. That much.
Was that full?
This was full.
It was full to the top.
It was full.
So you got a
now-
half one
and then-
left, right?
Well, maybe 3/4 left.
Okay.
So.
It's not 3/4. It's a little less than 3/4. Let's be precise here now.
So now, as I've said, we don't cook anything without Parmesan cheese.
Okay.
And again, we just kind of
Daddy,
A handful?
a handful of Parmesan cheese.
Okay.
And then I always throw in a little extra because I really like the cheese.
Okay.
Now,
All right, let's take a good look here. Okay. All right.
now we're going to put in our eggs because the hot sauce is underneath everything else.
No shell.
One, no shells. Because, you don't want crunchy things in the meatballs. 2, 3, 4.
I did get an egg shell and the deviled eggs last night.
I didn't do that.
Okay, blame it on somebody else.
I had help with the deviled eggs.
Okay.
But I'm not going to throw her under the bus because she was a big help. All right, so now I'm just going to throw in a little bit of extra parsley.
Extra parsley,
Just a
dried
little,
parsley.
Draw a little extra dried parsley. Bradley, please get out of my shirt.
Dried
Oh
parsley,
my
okay.
God. This is why I could never have a web page. Get out! Stop! Come on.
Bradley, Grandpa just called you.
Mommy,
Yeah.
I'll pull your shirt down and everybody will
Don't.
see you, boo.
Just stop! Just stop! Just stop! Go inside.
Go inside. Go by your grandfather.
All right, so now we're gonna mix. I don't know if you can see my face enough, but now we're gonna mix.
Okay.
And you don't
You
want
don't
to
use
over
like a
mix.
mashed potato thing in there,
No,
like
you don't
that?
use
No.
a mashed potato mix. Oh, Maron. All right.
Yeah, make it nice and mushy.
And you don't want it too mixed because then the meatballs get too tight. You want to get everything in there. And normally, if I'm doing this by myself, I would only use one hand to mix so that I have another hand free to add more breadcrumbs if I needed it.
No. Is that my job now?
Well, yeah, but I don't need any extra breadcrumbs. I
Paid
think we're
enough for
good.
this.
I think we're good.
Rather get out of here before I beat your head.
All right. So, like I said, you don't want to
Now,
overmix.
how do you know that you did enough then, and that it's not needs anything to be added or anything like that?
Because did you see how wet it got when I had the eggs in there? It was
Right.
all wet and whatnot. If it was still a little too wet, then you would add more breadcrumbs. But right now, we've got a nice little, to when I go like this, it's a little sticky,
Sticky.
but it's not it's not too
Not coming
loose.
apart?
It'll stay together, and yet it's not too hard. Because if
Okay.
you put too much breadcrumbs in, then it becomes really tough.
Okay. Now, is that a little too small for a meatball?
Well, see now that's a that's an issue, because everybody makes meatballs a different size. So I usually tend to make them about this size.
Okay.
But you can make them a little bigger. You just got to fry them a little more, or you got to leave them in the sauce longer.
Okay.
So the oil is heating up. So what I kind of do is just kind of start making my meatballs, and you'll see that some of them are bigger than others. And I just kind of line them up so that when they go in, you want to kind of put them all in at the same time so they all get cooked at the same time.
And FYI, we're 6 minutes and 29 seconds into this
That's
video.
okay, 'cause
so
you
this
know-
is where you should be at 6 minutes and 29
That's right.
seconds.
Well, you know what? If it's her first time, you got to give her a little time to make sure she's doing
Yeah,
everything right.
Okay.
You know,
And a
because
little apprehension, they slow it down a little, so we'll give you an extra 2 minutes.
yeah, like I've been making meatballs a long time.
Okay.
Like I'm a pro or something. So we get going, and as we have our meatballs going, you just want to kind of keep an eye on your oil. You don't ever want your oil to get to the point where it's boiling.
And that means look at the oil. Don't really keep your eye on the oil. Okay. It's not boiling. I don't see any bubbles in the bottom yet. And I just got burnt on this stupid pot over here. Ooh, that hurt. Okay.
All right, so let's put one in, and we'll see if we're ready. And here's what you do with your meatballs. When you put your meatballs in,
Look for bubbles.
well, yeah, see, there's no bubbles or anything now, so this isn't quite ready yet, so we're going to keep making a few more meatballs. Well, maybe we're going. But when you put your meatballs in, you start with the first one, you go around in a circle,
All right.
and then you go
And
inside and
make
you go
an
around in
ever
a
tighter
circle, because that's how you know where to start turning them. Because
Okay.
the first ones you put in are going to be ready before the other ones.
Okay, that's like nervous water when you're looking at fish.
Is that what this?
You fight a school of bunker, it looks like nervous water.
Oh my God.
And you know that all the other big
So we're
fish
just
are underneath.
about ready, so I can do a few more meatballs.
Okay.
And you can see that now my meatballs are getting a little bigger as I go.
You're throwing us all off now.
I know. I gotta be consistent. I'm sorry.
Because then the meatballs are going to be cooking differently. And you're throwing these girls a curveball. Because you don't want anybody to have meatballs as good as yours.
This would be one of those things that says, do as I say, not as I do. All right, so now we've got a nice little cook going. So we're gonna put them in.
Okay. Oh, look at round circle. You're right. They're all that nervous oil. Nervous oil makes for better meatballs. Okay.
Did you just say nervous oil makes for better meatballs?
It does. That one meatball is a little bigger than all the other ones. He must be
Yeah.
the bully on it in the pot.
You want to make sure you have a little bit of space between the meatballs, because what happens is the oil bubbles up and cooks in between them. And if
Okay.
the meatballs are touching, then that side of the meatball isn't going to cook the same way
Okay,
as the other meatballs.
But I also noticed as the meatballs are getting larger, the space is getting more larger because you
Yeah.
started off with hardly any space in between you.
I know.
Just pointing these out if anybody wants to make perfect meatballs, you know, they got to know these things.
Perfect, yeah, okay.
It's like a red daisy.
And honestly, if you do have some that are larger than the others, if you put them toward the center is going to cook faster.
Okay. Now you are going to make a couple extra meatballs that we can eat without the sauce on the side, right?
I have known you for 42 years, so
Okay,
yeah.
Good. I just want to make sure. I'm not getting paid enough for this.
And we're going to stick one more right in the middle.
Okay.
All right, and in the meantime, you can go through and
make
go
more
ahead
meatballs.
and you get your meatballs ready so that when you turn them and you get them out, you can just plop, 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 and you're good to go. So if you would
Now,
like to...
Is that what my mother did, or is that what you do? Did she make them ahead of time and then threw everything in as they
Yeah.
were going along? Because they always had a meatball to throw in when
Absolutely.
one was ready?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Grandma always,
And then-
Grandma was very good about having everything ready. She was also very good about cleaning as she goes. I'm not so good with that part. Hell, I'm not so good about cleaning when I'm not doing something else. But,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just about anything.
So we just finished these up. And then, like I said, Grandma would normally start the sauce about, or like I said, gravy in our house. But she would start the gravy about 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we would eat about 2:30. I ain't getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
She really started, she started early because then she used to go to church. That's why.
Well, yeah, she would get up. She was always up early. Not me.
Now you know where I got it.
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't think...
Which, even after being awake half of the night because there were some girls staying up here talking till 2 o'clock in the morning. And then a bear outside ripping the garbage pail down at 1 o'clock in the morning.
He wanted to say hello.
I still got early.
He heard that we had some good food in that garbage pail.
Well, the other one, he didn't hit the other one. The other one, he could have got something out of it.
All right, so I've got the rest of my meatballs. I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to flip those.
Okay. Now, do you flip them with a spoon or a tongue?
A fork.
A fork? You don't have to pull them apart when you do that? You just roll them?
You do it with a fork. Bradley, no. Get things out of your nose. I won't blow your nose.
What's he sticking in his nose? His fingers?
His fingers. Then he's got to get the boogers
That's
out.
what was all over my iPad screen this morning.
Oh, God. Bradley.
That's why it's hiding right now.
All right, let me get a fork. And we start from the first meatball, and we flip. And we've got a nice color on there, so we know it's cooking, it's not burnt.
Okay. You know, you can get hypnotized watching meatballs burning in oil.
Oh, Jesus.
You can.
And we know this
It's very
because...
relaxing. And it smells good, too. It's even more relaxing. I can just imagine eating one of those before they get in the sauce.
Oh, well, see, there's one other thing that Grandma did that I don't do. Because I'm not very good at knowing when they're done just by sticking a fork in them.
Oh, you just blew this whole thing just now.
Well, no, because you think she's going to know just by sticking a fork in it the first time? I cut one open. I admit it. I cut one open, and I make sure it's done, and then I eat it. So that'll be your meatball to eat.
Well, now it's about 12:46, so figure 6 minutes in there, and then as you put them in, 6 minutes to get them in there already, and then another 6 minutes before you roll them.
There's no way these things sat in oil for 6 minutes.
It's 13 minutes into the show.
And these things sat in the oil for 6 minutes? I don't think. We're going to have to check that. Check that, Riss. Don't just go by that.
That's right. Check it as you go.
Check it as you go.
Stick this one down a little more because we got some red sticking out over there. Come
Well,
on,
that's one of the bigger ones. I'm
Do
getting that side first.
That's what you get for making odd and even size meatballs.
Muddle. So this is what we do.
Okay.
We can actually stop it here if you want. And well, actually, no.
No, not
'cause they're
yet. We gotta cut
well,
one
I just
open
don't
first.
want her to get bored if we have nothing to talk about.
Oh, she's not gonna get bored. She wants to make perfect meatballs.
Oh, okay. Well, there's no such thing as perfect meatballs.
Yes, there is. A meatball that tastes good is a perfect meatball.
Grandma made perfect meatballs. That's the only person in my life I've ever known that made perfect meatballs.
Well, if that's the case, then we'll just throw this whole video out.
Well, you can come close, but I've never had my meatballs taste as good as Grandma's. There's just no, you know what? You can't replace Grandma's hands. That's what it is. Either that or it's because we don't have mighty fine chocolate pudding with peanuts to go after it.
She had good hands because she used to smack me in the head a lot, so her hands are nice and strong.
Well, I could try that if you'd like. I mean, I could smack you, see what happens.
And then when her hands got a little tough, then she would use her yardstick and her slipper and stuff like that.
I remember the yardstick.
Ooh,
I never got it waved at me, but I do remember it existing.
I want to tell you something.
What do you
Well, I
want
want to tell you something.
Go ahead.
Keep your
Wait, Uncle Frankie,
snot picking fingers off of my iPad.
Frankie.
Oh, I got burned again.
Uncle Frankie, I want to tell you something.
What?
I want to tell you.
Tell me.
What do you want to
Tell
tell
me,
him?
nephew Bradley. Tell me.
Where are you going?
Uncle Frankie.
What do you want to tell him?
What do you want?
I want to tell you.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to make a living here.
I was still in class when I just went willow there.
Take a walk.
Okay.
Go take a long walk up Short Pier.
Oh, dear God.
It's very soothing watching meatballs just cook.
Did you ever watch Grandma's meatballs just cook?
No, I was, yes,
She
the
probably
ones I wanted to eat, I
I
kept
was going to say,
watching.
she probably threw you out of the kitchen.
The ones I wanted to eat.
Now, again, remember, we've got our sauce here. And, you know, we have our
It
can.
looks like an active volcano. When your sauce starts looking like an active volcano, stir it.
We've got our meat in
So it
there.
don't burn.
Now, maybe you know, because I said Grandma used to just order a piece of veal and a piece of pork.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no idea, like, what type. Was it a piece of roast pork? Like, I get pork.
No, she used to just say beef and pork for the sauce.
Yeah, see.
And Nikki the butcher used to give us pieces, and they were nice.
Well, unfortunately, I
And
don't
the more
have.
you cooked, the more they fell apart. They were nice and juicy.
I don't have someone like Nikki the butcher up here. The one time I tried to call the butcher and say I needed, you know, a piece of the. They had no idea what the hell I'm talking about because there's
Yeah.
no Italians up here that know.
You gotta find out.
I know.
Maybe it's in one of the recipe books.
You know. If it was in the recipe book, it would say get a 2-pound piece of veal or beef or It wouldn't say this cut of beef. No. All right. So this is our first meatball we put in. Let's take a look. You got it? You're looking at this?
Hold on, wait, hold on.
Yeah. See, that's not done yet.
Yeah, it's not done yet.
Okay. So we're gonna put that back in.
I can still eat it.
What? You're gonna eat that with like the raw meat in the middle?
Oh, carpaccio.
Oh my god, here, you want that? Take it. It's hot.
Oh, it's hot.
The word duh comes to mind.
You, get out of here.
No, you got it.
Alright, so we'll let that cool and then you can have it.
Oh, get your finger out of it.
Careful, that one's hot too. And each time you turn around, this video's getting all over the
Each
place.
time I turn around, get your finger out of there.
Bradley James.
Bradley James, you need a good beating.
I'll go
Right, let's
bring
see.
this.
Hey, it's almost time for football.
No, Bobby.
It's almost time for bed.
Oh, Bobby, my big one.
You want to ride your big wheel? Okay, well, you're going to have to wait.
Good. Definitely good. Let's see this one. Yeah, this one's the one that's raw.
Would you like a drink? Oh my god.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Jeez Louise.
Now this one should be cool. Oh, only that's what it was. Only a little hot in my water. Okay.
The people watching this are gonna be like nauseous for.
Oh my god. Very good, I have to say. Okay, now.
So they're gonna be in there for about an hour, so it's okay. We're gonna take them out and we're gonna put them in the sauce. And the sauce is probably gonna go all over the place.
And I'm gonna back up.
Now, I've had this conversation with Michelle before.
Right.
And Michelle and I are in agreement. You take it out of the oil and put it right in the pot. You do not drain the meatballs.
What do you mean drain them? Oh,
Some people take the meatballs out, put them on a paper towel, let the oil drain off them. We've never done that.
Okay.
We just go straight from one
I don't
pot
remember
to
my
the
mother
other.
draining them.
Huh?
Oh no, wait a minute. They used to put them in a dish. Her and Aunt Lucy used to put them in a dish with paper towel in there, and then they would put them all in at the same time, I think.
Uncle Frank.
So
Wow.
wait, did you bother me?
I don't ever remember Grandma
Get your hand out of there.
draining.
Wait, Uncle Frankie.
The
Wait,
meatballs.
you have to get my big wheel.
What big wheel? I'll give you the big wheel. Right, I'll roll it right over your head.
That one's not quite done yet.
The big wheel on that little head.
Hi, Jim. He is just dying for somebody to get his big wheel out.
Tell Grandpa to take a walk with you around the block.
Hey, you see what they're saying here?
What?
Funny how they can find Kavanaugh's emails from 2002, but they still can't find Hillary's 33,000 emails she destroyed after he
That's good. Marisa can hear that.
Yeah, really. Like, what?
Okay, now here we go.
Okay,
for
so
the
now
rest
we're
of
putting the
meatballs.
second batch in.
Okay.
And we don't have as many for the second batch. Right now it doesn't look like we need to turn the oil down. It's not too bad. Hi, Dad.
What did you learn?
He's videoing how to make the meatballs for Marisa and Evan. And then he had to taste one and burned himself.
Oh, yeah, a little burn. But I've been burned before.
All right.
You should have tasted the fishy dish at the casino the other day with the hot chili sauce all over it. Oh my God. I was sweating like I never sweat before.
Oh my God. What?
And
You want water?
they still didn't give me any bok choy. Right, Sophie? What do you want? Meatballs?
No, it's water.
No? Oh, okay.
Sophie's very particular. She has to have fresh water.
Yeah? That's not being particular. It's being smart. Then we can go to here. And when you're all born over here, you go to school over here. You learn how to swim in here first, and then you take the plunge in here.
Oh my God, you are so funny.
And then how long we keep them in here?
Let's see, it's 1 o'clock. We're going to eat at 2, so they'll be in there for about an hour before we eat.
And this started what time this morning?
I started that about 11, but I said, you know, normally I would cook it
Now,
for
the
about...
big thing is, what did you do to start it?
I already did that part.
Huh?
I already did that part.
Where is it? In here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got to put it all together.
They're back to back? Yeah?
Yeah.
Do I get a free copy?
Absolutely. I'm going to post it on YouTube.
Oh, good.
Because there's no way I'm going to be able to upload this video and send it to her in a text message or an email. It's too long.
If I go like this, the sauce looks like there's mustard, yellow mustard all over it. If I go like this, it turns back nice and red.
Oh my God.
That's the lights. You got to change your lighting when you're doing stuff. Where'd that little child go? Outside?
Yeah.
Grandpa took him out?
No.
Ooh, it's gonna rain. We're gonna have a storm. Actually, Grandpa's got to catch up because me and Tony were taking him out for the last 2 days, so he's got to get out there at least once with him.
Now you notice the second batch did not take as long as the first batch because now that that oil is up to temperature, it's going to cook them a lot faster. So you really got to keep an eye on your second batch.
Right, yeah. And they are a little darker.
Exactly, and they were not in there as long.
Just make sure you keep another one out on the side. I'll
Now,
let it cool down.
feel free to have a glass of wine or an alcoholic beverage, but don't get too involved in your alcohol because then you forget about the meatballs. Been there, done that. Don't do that again.
Right. And too much beer and tomato sauce is not good for your stomach. Or mine, anyway. I said, there's always, with beer, there's 3 things you can't eat. Tomato sauce, Chinese food, what was the third one?
Really? Chinese
And
food?
ice cream.
Okay, well, first of all, why would you have beer and ice
Well,
cream
no, I'm saying
together?
if you're sitting down and you're having a few things that you know, and you're drinking a lot of beer, and then you switch from one thing to another thing to another
okay.
thing,
All right.
it doesn't make for a good evening.
All right.
No, here's what the other one was.
What?
Tomato sauce, Chinese food, and pizza. Beer and pizza, for some reason, doesn't go well with me.
Wait.
I know it's an American favorite.
Beer and pizza is like the thing.
I know, but it's not good with me. I don't know why.
Okay.
Just don't.
Well, you've always been a little different.
No, my stomach has always been a little weird. Not to chase anybody away from this, but, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just say that, you know, you need
And
to
I
have
know
some other
that if I really
alcohol
needed
beverage.
something to drink and there was only a beer around, it would go pretty good with this sauce.
You know, we do what we have to do.
We use a light beer.
We used to like beer. Oh, so the Oktoberfest would not work with
No,
this?
definitely not.
Oh, well, Jimmy might disagree.
Well, you could cook something with the October. You should probably cook the meatballs with the October.
Oh my God! Rob's son cooked steak in Fireball. You know what Fireball
Yeah,
is?
that
The
liquor,
cinnamon
yeah.
whiskey. I was like, what? He said it was
Totally
really
just-
good. I said, Hunter, what are you doing? He's like, oh, it was delicious.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I
okay.
don't know about that. You ready? Actually, you're gonna put them in here for another hour, so they're gonna cook
Yeah.
more anyway. So
Should we test it? Do you need? Do you?
Yeah, I think we have
do
to
you
test
need?
it.
You need to test one. Okay, so Uncle Frankie needs to test another one. Yeah, this
Oh,
one's
this
not.
one's
Yeah,
very
no,
well.
they're not ready yet.
very, very well.
So we're gonna put that one back in. You're not eating that.
I can't go
You're
with
not
that.
eating that. No, that wasn't a question. That was a statement. You're not eating that.
I would eat it,
I know you would, but that's why I'm telling you you're not.
but
I'm gonna have to
so
like.
they're really not cooking as fast as the other ones. Then they
No,
got
the
fat
out. See,
balance.
that's the thing. The outside is cooking. That's why you got to keep an eye on them because the outside is cooking faster than the inside. And every once in a while, you just kind of move them around so they don't get stuck to the bottom, and then you get that one spot where it's all black.
And do you deglaze the pan and throw it in here?
No, you leave the pan on the stove for the oil to cool down so you can get rid of the oil. And then, if you're lucky, Jimmy will come around and clean up after you.
You're not that lucky.
I'm not that lucky.
And if you're really, really lucky, your father will come and clean up after. But you're really not.
If that's happening,
not that lucky.
if that is happening, we are all dead and in heaven somewhere, because that's not happening. I just realized I don't have any bread.
You need bread.
I don't know. Don't you
I thought
like?
you had bagels. You got bagels? Oh, we got all the pretzels here. We bought from the post.
Oh yeah, German pretzels with Italian meatballs and macaroni.
Pretzel's a pretzel. But those pretzels are like bread.
That's true. That's true. I was gonna say I have a recipe for a batch of quick rolls I can make.
Nah.
Oh, I hear them coming up the
Actually,
stairs.
the pretzels will go in here pretty good.
You won.
What do you do? You race them? What did you win?
You ran up.
Now you'll notice I'm
Mommy,
flipping these
now
over
I wanna
again.
open your tablet.
What?
I want to open your tablet.
Do you see me cooking?
Grab up your tablet.
I don't know where Uncle Frankie's tablet is.
It's locked
Did you
up in
ride
the
your
safe.
big wheel with Grandpa?
Yeah, now you have.
No, that was pretty quick. Wait, did you promise him that?
No. He said, I said, if you ride
Go ahead, start stuttering.
if you do the big wheel, then you can have Uncle Frankie's
I
tablet.
didn't figure that.
Oh, Grandpa, I want to open your tablet. Now, where
Somebody want to test that? It's a little hot.
is
a little hot.
Frankie?
It's a
Your
little hot.
tablet is awake. Grandpa, Uncle Frankie, your tablet is awake.
Take a walk, kid.
Wait, Uncle Frankie, your tablet is awake.
How do you know it's awake? Did
How
you
is
see
it?
it? That hot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it good though?
There's water right there. Oh, where'd it go? The water left.
Well, I didn't take it, so it had to be you.
It's over there.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put these in the pot now too.
Where's your tablet?
Tony had it in his car.
You gotta ask Uncle Frankie. I don't know where he put it.
Uncle Frankie, I want your tablet because it's awake.
It's sleeping.
But is
That's a
it, Bradley, is it charged though? Maybe it's charging.
I want it.
But if it's charging,
It's charging. You can't take it when it's charging.
Oh, let the kid play with it.
Why don't you buy him one?
he has 3.
He's got 3.
He's got a blue tablet, a black tablet, and an iPhone.
I know.
The kid
And
needs
he's got
nothing.
all the games on there that I have,
All right.
basically.
So basically now we've got all our meatballs in the pot. We're going to turn off our oil, let that cool down. We can actually take it off the burner, let it cool down. I'm assuming you know that you can't throw oil down your drain. You need to dispose of it
I
however
would
you
throw
dispose
it in the
of
grass
it.
in the back.
A lot of times, honestly, because I'm not going out throwing things out back. That if Jimmy doesn't do that, I'll let it cool down. I throw it in a Ziploc bag and I throw it out.
Something will come by. Oh, freaking hot. Something will come by tonight and lick it all up.
The bear, yeah. That's
Mm.
true. All right.
Oh,
So now you can see that we are filled to the brim. We have our sauce that's splashing out all over
That's
the place.
splashing out all over.
We have our meatballs, we have our beef, we have our pork. We are going to let this continue to simmer at least another hour, and then I will make the macaroni.
You're becoming very messy now.
Yeah, well, it's a little too high, but that's all right. It's all good.
Okay.
It's all good. All right, so Marisa, well,
Right. Wish that one for you.
I will.
This one's for
I'm
you.
assuming you know how to make macaroni, but just to continue with what we're doing, when I put the pot up, I'll video that too. And I'll show you how we eat, because you know, you can't not have
Everybody
us
knows
eating.
how we eat.
All right, so we're going to end this
People
here.
will never go on YouTube again. Okay, we done?
We're done.
All right, it's a wrap. Jump the shark.
All right, it's 1:15. We're planning on eating at 2, so I'm putting up the pot now. When you make a big macaroni pot full of water like this, sometimes it can take a half hour just to come to a boil. So I'm going to go ahead, put that on now, put it on high, and get the water boiling. All right, so it's been about a half an hour. My water is boiling. Now here's where I differ from Grandma a little bit. Grandma would put vegetable oil in the water so that the pasta didn't stick. I prefer to use a little bit of salt. Number 1, it gives the pasta a little flavor. Number 2, the oil prevents the gravy from sticking to the pasta as well. Now, in go 2 pounds of, I'm making rigatoni today. If you remember from Grandma sometimes had rigatoni, she would make frizzilles, she would make cavatelli. If you were part of Aunt Lucy's crew, you had ziti every week. So we put that in, we get our spoon, and we stir. And then, honestly, I'm gonna say 10 to 15 minutes. I have learned that different brands of pasta take a little bit longer to cook, even if it's the same type of pasta. So I usually start with 10 minutes, and then we check. And no, we do not throw anything against the wall. We actually taste. So let's set our timer, and we're good to go. Alright, the pasta is just about done. It's a little al dente. That's how I like it, so I turned it off. I pulled out the meatballs into one bowl, beef and pork into another, and I've got my bowl ready for my macaroni. So now we're going to drain the macaroni, put a little sauce in the bowl, throw the macaroni in the bowl, and we're going to eat. Okay, our pasta is done. Now we can eat. And this is what your end result will be. A happy family at an Italian table on a Sunday afternoon with a big bowl of macaroni,
And
some meatballs, some beef, some pork.
And
Provided you do it correctly.
Yes, provided
You
correctly.
don't want a meatball?
No pressure. You can do this. And I want pictures and videos afterwards.
If I can do it.
We miss you
anyone can do it.
guys. Can't wait to see you in December.
Yeah!
Salud.